Okay, next up we're creating some user interface. We're creating a canvas that will sit over the top of our entire game here. We're adding text for our story, text for our title, and some images just to give our game a little bit of a shape and to have some backgrounds to our text. So let's dive in and create some user interface. Let's open up Unity Hub. Click on New to start a new project. I'm going to save mine in the same location as our previous project we created under Unity 2D Text 101. Select project there. The project name will be Text 101. And then under Unity version, I've recently downloaded a new version, or an old version actually, so I've got two options there. Just stick with my newest. Click on 2D for template and then create project. While that is loading, I'll take you through a little bit about what we're up to in this video. We're talking about user interface, otherwise known as UI, and specifically that's referring to the buttons, the text, the menus that will appear in our game, usually over the top of our gameplay itself. And in Unity, the UI, user interface, lives on the canvas. All of our UI has to be on the canvas, and we'll be adding a canvas in just a moment. The canvas is overlaid over the top of anything else that's happening within our scene, and therefore within our game. Now I'm back in Unity. Now I've clicked on default just to make sure that our view here looks as the default view. We're going to jump over into hierarchy, and there's one of two ways for us to create a game object in the hierarchy. We can right click and click on one of these options just here, or up at the top of our menus, we can click on game object. We find the same menu up the top here. So I will click on UI and then add a canvas. That brings in our canvas into our scene. It also brings an event system. Don't worry about that. That's just some information to make sure that our canvas is doing what our canvas should. We're mostly focused on our canvas at the moment. If you double click on the canvas, we'll zoom out and we'll see the canvas in its entirety. Now the main camera is a bit more zoomed in and the canvas is zoomed out. That doesn't matter. What we see on the canvas is what will be presented over the top of our game. So it doesn't matter that the size of the canvas, it doesn't match the game, the size of our camera. The canvas knows to present over the top of whatever we see in our game. And speaking of which, we'll grab the game window, drag it over next to our scene so that we can see what's happening here. One thing that we can see is happening as we drag our window, you can see the ratio, so the size of our canvas is changing. If I make it look very vertical, then our canvas is very vertical, matching what we see in our game window here. For now, I don't want to play around with that. I don't want to have that be an issue if we're accidentally got the wrong size layout for our window here. So instead of having free aspect, we have free aspect. That means that we can change the window size and our canvas will match whatever we see in our game window. Instead of that, I'm going to click on the 1080, which gives us a 16:9 ratio, and that is the look that I want for our game. If you don't see that, you can click the plus and type in the width and height yourself. But for now, I'm going to click on 1080. That means no matter what, our game is expecting to be a 1920 by 1080 game. Even if it's scaled down, it will keep the same aspect ratio. Now, double click on canvas again to get it fully within view. Zoom in just a tiny bit. We're going to add ourselves some text. So again, over in our hierarchy, right click on canvas, or while clicked on canvas, come up to the top here to game object. I'm going to do right clicking from now on. So right click under UI, we will see text. Add in there, it's pretty tiny at the start. We'll scroll in a little bit. You can see over, while clicked on text over in our inspector, we scroll down, you can see color. Let's change that to white so we can see it a bit more clearly. Also, we have some font options here. I'll change the font size up to 40 so it's a bit bigger. Now that I've changed it to 40, we can't see it at all. That's because it doesn't fit within our text box here. So I need to drag the sides of the text box to make it bigger, which also leads me to conclude that I need to put the text box where I would like it to be in relation to our game window. So I've got a question of where should it be. I have a look at my game design requirements that we talked about in the very first lecture, and you can see that we have a title up the top. Then we have all this section in here, which is where our game text goes, our story text goes. So I need to make sure that my text roughly matches that. I've just got title text, story text, and then the story area, which is a colored image that's going to sit underneath our text. So back over into Unity, grabbing the blue nodes on the side, the top left there and the bottom right. I'll move it roughly into place. Doesn't need to be perfect for now. We just need to get the general layout of our text. Okay, so I've got my text there, and always we need to make sure we rename our game objects so it makes sense. I'll scroll up to the top of my inspector, and instead of just plain old text, I'll call this story text. hit enter. Now we have a story text game object which has some text in it, and in upcoming lectures we'll be dynamically feeding our story into this text field that we see here. For now, we've just got placeholder that says new text. Let's make a whole bunch of placeholder story text, just so we can see how it fits on the screen. I'm going to copy that and then just paste in here a bunch so that we can see, yep, that's where our story is going to be, and that's roughly how large it would be when we have it on our game screen. If I make game screen bigger, yep, okay, that's great. Now the next thing I'm going to do is create a background image underneath my text so that we can see our text more clearly and we can see where our text should be going. Again, on the canvas, right-click, UI, and image, and you see a small white square appear, not dissimilar to the sprite we were looking at in previous videos. I will drag the side of that so it fits a little bit bigger than where my text is at the moment, a little bit bigger, and it's completely consuming the text because it's sitting over the top of the text. First of all, I'll change the color of this so it's not white because my text is also white. We'll make it I'm going to make mine a brownie kind of color. Feel free to make yours whatever you like. X out of that. And now the order that we see in the canvas makes a difference to what is rendered first and second. Whatever is sitting at the top is rendered first and the bottom is rendered last. And because this is rendered last, it's sitting over the top of the thing that was rendered first. So I'm going to drag image up here and sit it above my story text. And you can see that within Canvas we now have these two game objects that are sitting underneath Canvas. They are referred to as the children of Canvas. So image is a child and Canvas is the parent. Story text is the child and Canvas is the parent. And in the future, we're going to be doing a lot more talking about the parent-child relationship. All we need to know at this stage of our journey is that it's a way of grouping so that we can open and close Canvas. We could move Canvas around within our hierarchy here, and those two elements that are sitting underneath it, those two game objects, will go along with Canvas wherever it goes. There's a checkbox up in the top right here that switches on and off game objects. If we switch on and off Canvas, it also switches on and off the game objects underneath it because it's the parent. However, if you switch on and off the child, it only switches on and off that particular child, doesn't switch off the other child or the parent. Okay, so that's just the start of parent-child. We'll be doing a lot more of that later on in the course. Now I have a challenge for you, and the challenge is to get your canvas ready, create a text field for our story like I've just done, create a heading, and then as an optional, add some flair to match your theme in terms of the images, the boxes underneath. So for me, I've got a heading background up here. I've got a couple of little heading, what are these? Rectangles underneath for flair. And then I've given my my story field a border here. That's a little bit of bonus points. If you can figure out how to do a border just by using the images that we have, then that's a bonus challenge for you. Don't worry about creating funky font just yet. We'll be doing that in an upcoming video using Text Mesh Pro. So for now, go ahead and take on that challenge, and I'll see you back here in a moment. Rightio, welcome back. What I need to do first is create another piece of text. I'm going to duplicate the text that I have already by holding Control D or hitting Control D or Command D. I'll change the name straight away from story text to title text. And then clicking on my game object, I'll drag it up to the top. I don't need all of this placeholder. I'm just going to type in my game name up the top. Very exciting it is. If you have any ideas for what I should call my steampunk game, then please do let me know in the Q&A. For now, I'll just call it my game name. I'll increase the font size to 80 so that it's bigger. I'll rearrange my layout a little bit, drag it down a bit. You can see a really handy snapping mechanism. The middle of my game object here, the middle of my text field, is matching up with the middle of our canvas. So we see that blue line there, it's snapping. Likewise, if I drag the side, it will snap whenever I reach any other indicators in my canvas. So it'll snap when I hit the end of my background here, and also on the left when I hit the end of the left background. Now, next I'm going to change the alignment of my title so it sits in the middle. We've got an alignment button down here under characters and paragraph. So in paragraph, click on the middle alignment. And then I can also change the alignment. So as a horizontal alignment, I can also change the vertical alignment by clicking on the middle button just there as well. So now I've got my game name. Next, I'll give a little bit of a background underneath my title I'll duplicate my image here that I have already. I've just called it, I didn't rename this, naughty me. This should be called story background, bad form. And then I will duplicate that again, Control D or Command D, like this. Change the name of this straight away to title background. Title background. Move it up a little bit, rearrange the size of it, stick it underneath, or at the moment it's on top of my text. I need to drag this up above my title text. Now we can see it above. Move it to the sides, change the color so it's a slightly different color just for fun. We'll give it more of a dark bluey kind of thing, like I say, just for fun. And there we have it. And the final step I mentioned to you about creating a border. So if you click on your story background, duplicate that, drag it all the way up to the top. So it's going to be the bottommost element. I'll change this to story background border as its name up here in the inspector. I'll change the color to probably just straight up black so we can see it. And then when I move the outside borders, so basically what I'm doing, let me just drag this game object into the middle. You can see I've just got it's just another box, but because it's a little bit larger than the box that it's underneath, it looks like it's creating some borders around that other box. And so, there's other tools to be doing some of the things we're doing now, but we're in the early days. We use the tools that we have, and we make the most of what we can do now, because there's plenty we can do with our current tools. So there we have it. There's not super sexy just yet, but it's at least the structure of our game. We know where we can put our text, which we'll be doing very soon. And in the next video or two, we'll be having a look at how we can make our title a little bit more interesting. But our game is coming along. Great work in this video, and I will see you in the upcoming lecture.